So let us take a look at the first method of centering moving averages in case of even period moving average, or in case we are given an even period of moving average. So let us take a 4-year moving average. So these are the steps. They are shown below and also in table 2. This is your, call this your table 2. Okay. So like we've discussed before, when you have an even period moving average, okay, for each group of data or subsets of data that we're dividing according to the period of moving average, let's say if it's 4, we're dividing into 4 groups each. Finding the middle year or middle point of each group is very difficult, because the moving average or total or moving totals will lie in between 2 middle years, so it's difficult to decide which year to assign the value to. So that is where the process of centering becomes important. So here in method 1, what we do is, okay, if you look at the table side by side, so here you have your, so let's take a period of 7 years, okay, and we have 7 values, time series values. So what we do here is, in the first step, what we do is you add up the values corresponding to the first 4 years and place the total between the year 2 and year 3. And okay, so year 2 and year 3. So let us calculate the totals for these here. So it will be placed between year 2 and year 3. So in between here, because we're taking the first group of 4 years, 1 2 3 4, 2 and 3 are your middle years, so it will be somewhere here. Add the values y1, y2, y3, y4, okay, and let us call this total as a1. Then we move to the next group of 4 years, which is 2 3 4 5. Again, we cannot find the middle point of this group, so the value will lie between the middle years, which are year 3 and year 4. So what we do here also, the same thing, you add up the values and you put the total in between the middle year, which is year 3 and year 4. So somewhere here. So this is y2, y3, y4, y5. Call this as a2. Then we move to the next group of 4 years. Okay, so we have y3, we have 3 4, year 3, year 4, 5 and 6. So again here no middle value, but will lie between year 4 and year 5. So we have y3, y4, y5, y6. Call that as a3. And the next group, let me use a different color. We have year 4 5 6, and your value will lie between year 5 and year 6, since these are the middle years of this interval, or of this group, next group of 4 years. So y4, y5, y6, or y5, y6, y7. Call this total as a4. Okay, so in the next step, since we have found the 4 yearly moving totals, the next step is the totals of each subset or groups are divided by 4 to obtain a 4 yearly uncentered moving average. So what we do here is we divide these totals by 4. So let's take the first, which is a1, which lies between year 2 and year 3. So keep it over there. Okay, so we divide this by 4. Then the next which lies between year 3 and year 4. Let us divide that by 4. And the next, which lies between year 4 and year 5. Let us divide that by 4. So your A3, sorry about that, this pen is not working. Your A over here, A3 divided by 4. Then your next value, which lies between year 5 and year 6, we divide that by 4. Okay, so that is your second step. The third step is to add. Okay, let me assign a value. Let's say A1 divided by 4 gives me capital A1, and A2 divided by 4 gives me capital A2. A3 divided by 4 gives me capital A4, and a capital A, sorry, it should be A3. A3, then A4 divided by this, it gives me capital A4. So those are your 4 yearly moving averages, but these are not centered. Because why? They still lie in the in between the middle years of each group, so they are uncentered, they are not centered. Now we'll proceed to centering. So what we do here, the next step here is to add the first and 4 yearly uncentered moving averages. So now we will add A1 and A2, okay, and place them in the third year or against the third year. So A1 plus A2 will be over here. Let's say it equals to B1. Then the next group, or the second and third, fourth yearly moving average, which is not centered. So A2, A3 now, and this will be placed where? This will be placed against the fourth year. So against in between this and this, so which means we have A2, A3, let us say it equals to B2. Then we move to the third and the fourth 4 yearly uncentered moving average, and it will be placed in between A3, A4, okay, which coincides with period or with year 5. So A3, A4 equal to B3. So what we have done here is now we have centered. Okay, now this value corresponds to year 3, B1 corresponds to year 3, B2 corresponds to year 4, B3 corresponds to year 5. And the last step is to divide these values by 2, okay, and this gives us the trend values. So B2 divided by 2, second trend value, B3 divided by 2, the third trend value. Okay, and if you noticed here, the first 2 years are left out, the last 2 years are left out. Now, if we use a longer time period, let's say 6 years time period, then 3 years will be left out. First 3 years, the last 3 years will be left out. So that is how we find the trend values using a 4 yearly moving average by or through the process of centering. So now before we move to the example, let us to avoid confusion, now here in this last column we are dividing the values by 2, and in column 4 we are dividing the values by 4. Now in column 4 where we calculate the 4 yearly moving average, which has not been centered, so these values still lie in between the middle years of each group or subset of 4 years, so they are divided by 4, okay, because there are 4 values you are adding, Okay, for example, for the first group we add the values y1, y2, y3, y4, we get a1, which is the total. So average is nothing but the total divided by the number of observations, which are 4, so we get a1, a2, a3, a4. Now in column 5 and 6, where we have centered the moving averages, hence we have values for year 3, 4 and 5, we're dividing by 2, because again, going back to the concept of the average, average means the total divided by the number of observations. So here we have taken two quantities, a1, a2, we have added them, we get b1. So b1 divided by 2 because there are two quantities. So that is how we arrive at the trend value, or in this case, the last column represents a 4-yearly moving average which has been centered. Okay, so this word here, 4-yearly, is quite confusing, but actually it just means like in this case we have 4-yearly moving totals, then 4-yearly moving total average not centered, then we have a 2-period moving total which has been centered, then we find the average of that total, which becomes the trend values. So that is the meaning of dividing this by 2.